So first, a little bit about my life so I can tell you about my experiences, and I hope to help you, help your students and or family members on the autism spectrum. This poem was written, I wrote it about my life as a child. This was before I was diagnosed. I kind of lived in a dream world as a child. You can read these quotes later, but basically it's about how verbal communication is not our only form of communication. So as a child, I was very shy. I guess we would say shy. I would say shy back then. Now I would say, I was having autistic overload. I was the smartest girl in class. I did very well in school because everything was structured. Okay, well let me talk about this first before I talk about school. So I had typical autistic tendencies. At the time, we didn't know it was autism. So basically, unfortunately, my parents didn't understand what I was doing. There was a restaurant called Farrell's where they had really loud drums when someone had a birthday, and I would go running into the bathroom crying. And nobody else was doing that. So I just thought there was something, quote, wrong with me. I would have meltdowns, I guess as they're called now, tantrums when I got overwhelmed. I was hitting my head, and again, unfortunately, my parents did not understand. They were loving people, but they used some poor judgment and telling me, there was something wrong with me. So I have forgiven them for that, but it's really only because we didn't know about autism. My father is definitely autistic. He's an engineering professor. He was an engineering professor at Purdue University. He doesn't embrace the diagnosis because he's 78 years old and he just says, okay, whatever, So I inherited that gene from him. So school, I loved school because the information was structured. I was very good at school, especially math. I remember I wasn't that great at reading as a child, but I got much better. I thought social studies was stupid. I did not understand why we were studying about people and cultures. I just thought they kind of made a mistake in teaching us that. But the truth is that's the one I should have really been listening to. Anyway, I also have musical ability, which I think is inherited and also related to autism. I started playing piano and taking lessons at a young age. The thing about piano or music also is it's very structured. Piano lessons were very structured. I sat alone with my teacher and she taught me things. I got it right away. It was like, what's that expression? A duck taking the water. It was just natural for me. Prior to that, I just kind of felt like the world was like a dream world. I had a hard time grounding myself. I had a hard time knowing where my body was. And it was very painful. When I first started taking piano lessons, and I first started putting my fingers on the piano and making sounds and making patterns and making music, it was earth-shattering to me because I really felt powerful and I felt like I could express something. Other emotions that I had, what do you do with them? They just got bottled up and I would explode or I would cry or I would freeze and just get numb. But with music, I could be and say everything. The other great thing about my piano lessons was I had to interact with my teacher. I'm sure we didn't do a lot of small talk, but we had to talk. So I was with her for 10 years, and that's amazing to me. And I really appreciate that, and I'm very grateful for that. And again, we didn't know anything about autism in terms, well, we did know some, but we didn't know I was autistic. And my piano teacher just thought I was a shy girl. So there's me in my retro 1980s glasses at my recital when I was age 13. And then that's my wonderful teacher, Jane Guzan, and that was my last performance with her when I was 18. Okay, just for the sake of time, I'm not going to play right now, but music has the ability to express basic emotions, and if you were able to hear me play earlier, every piece or every passage that I'm playing, I'm feeling something and I'm trying to express that. So I could be playing something very nostalgic and, you know, feel like, oh my gosh, I think of somebody I miss, I'm missing you, or I love you, or I'm angry, or anything. It's not that I'm like consciously thinking, okay, I must feel this emotion. It just comes naturally. And everyone, most people like music, so you might be singing in your car or whatever. You might have a stressful day, you put on certain music and it calms you down. So this is one thing that we all know, but I'm just stating that, and that's really the magic of music in being able to communicate and fully express yourself, and you don't need words. I mean, of course there are songs with words, but you really don't need words. You can just, you know, do instrumental music. And I'm sure some of you have had the experience where you'll be listening to a piece, an orchestral piece, or a singer, or maybe even a pop song that you don't know why, but suddenly you just cry. Or suddenly you're just so happy, you don't know why. And it's because the music is touching you, and it's evoking that emotion in you too. So I started playing guitar. I've been playing guitar for 20 years, and that's really my profession now. I'm a professional classical guitarist. And it took me a long time to find out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I think I'm almost there. I love playing guitar. I mean, I just love it for so many reasons. First of all, the vibrations. I love it more than the piano because I'm holding the guitar, I feel the vibrations, I'm in charge of doing things to the strings. I can turn my hand and have a different color to the sound. I can do whatever I want with it. And also at the same time, it's giving me feedback. It's responding to me. So it's a very powerful feeling. I also teach guitar and piano to children and adults, and that's another one of my joys, to spread that knowledge and that love to other people. I like interacting with children because you can say random things and they don't look at you and go, that's very strange, why did you say that? You know, I can say to a 6-year-old, what's your favorite color? You know, and they say, green. I say, oh, mine's purple. But, you know, with adults, you have to be a little more, you know, suave and follow all those social rules, which, you know, I'm getting better at. But anyway, my point is, as a teacher, I've grown a lot because I have to interact with the adults and explain things to the adults. And then once I'm with a kid, I'm fine. Once I'm with a student, I know what's going on. There's structure there, and I know how to teach. I know how to be in tune with how they're responding. I feel like I'm really in tune with how they're feeling, if they're stressed out, if they're scared, if they need more encouragement, or if they need me to be tougher on them. So that's all really, really great. What I recommend for people on the autistic spectrum is music lessons and encouraging them to express whatever they're feeling through music, and they don't have to have words to it. They don't have to say, how are you, you have to say, how are you feeling? Angry. Okay, now express it. Just how are you feeling? And then go to the piano or go to the guitar. Also the physicality of using the instrument, of leaning into it, of moving your fingers, whatever it is you're doing physically, I think is very important and very helpful. And then exercise is very important. Okay, this last part is, I don't know why it's on this slide, but I guess this is because I had a lot of questions from family members about autistic people going off in a corner, and for me it was very helpful it's very helpful for people to say, okay, now we're together, we're doing this, we're having dinner and we're talking, and now we're all doing separate activities, or now we're watching a movie and we're together but we're not talking, but we're all watching the same movie. So those kinds of things, they don't insult me, you know, if you tell me those things. It's not insulting to me. I would rather you tell me those things than to be afraid of insulting me. So I guess some neurotypicals do fear that they're going to insult an autistic person by stating the obvious. And I think that's very sweet, but I think you should err on the side of stating the obvious. Because autistic people, I think over time, we start to go more and more inside ourselves. Because when we ask questions, we get weird responses a lot of times. Okay, just wanted to talk about myths about autistic people. And of course, I'm just talking about myself, but I do have experience being autistic, and I've been around other autistic people. These are myths, meaning they're not correct. Autistic people are insensitive. That's just wrong. If you heard me playing and you call me insensitive, that doesn't make any sense. I'm very sensitive. I think really that autistic people are sensitive in different ways, and also probably what most people would call hypersensitive. I know that when I get very emotional, I kind of turn to stone. So it looks like I'm just cold and not feeling, but really the opposite is happening. I'm feeling so much, I don't know what to do. Okay, like a deer in the headlights. So here's an example of how I think autistic people and NT people are sensitive in opposite ways. I will just ask people questions that I think is just unemotional, like it's just data. You know, can you just give me the data? You know, like, where'd you get that shirt? Or I was at a restaurant and I just said, what are the vegetables sauteed in? And my friend said, oh my gosh, that's so rude. I can't believe you said it like that. And I said, I was just asking a question about what the vegetables are sauteed in. And the guy looked like he was going to cry. And she said, you know, from now on, I'm going to ask the questions because you're just so rude. And, you know, I just think, well, you know, you guys are more sensitive because I'm just asking data and you won't give me the answer. You're freaking out. So, you know, that's one example where I just think sometimes just give me the data and it doesn't have to be so emotional. On the other hand, I get emotional about stuff that NTs don't think is a big deal. So like somebody says, my friend says, let's get together next week. Okay, let's get together next week is in my brain, and that's data that goes in there. Why should I change it? You told me let's get together next week. Okay, so if you don't call me next week, or if I call you and it doesn't happen, there better be an explanation. And then it's just like I'm still working on this. And honestly, it's like, I think autistic people do a lot of, we adapt to a lot of other people. So I'm just giving you a view from the other side. Somebody says, "How are you?" And that's probably always going to bother me. And I've just accepted that people don't mean "How are you?" They don't, okay? And I had a refreshing experience. I was on the plane going to Finland for a work conference, and I talked to a man next to me who was Finnish, and I just said, "Oh, how do you say hello in Finnish?" And he told me, and I said, "And how do you say how are you? How do you say hi, how are you?" And he looked at me and he said, "Oh, that's a very personal question. Why would you ask somebody, how are you?" And I said, "Yes, thank you. There's finally somebody that understands." I said, "You are right, but so many cultures, they just, hi, how are you?" So I just kind of translate that to blah, blah, blah. And I don't answer the question, because I just think, why am I going to take the time? And my instinct, I'm telling you, my instinct every time is to tell that person, how are you? Because I just feel like it's proper. You ask a question, I give you the answer. But I've just learned when they say, how are you, I just, and I don't answer, I just move on. So anyway, I hope that kind of explains some things from that perspective. Another thing is that I'm working with my therapist on this. My therapist first did not believe in my diagnosis at first. And now she does. After working with me for a few months, she believes me. I guess you believe me too. But I really, like, let's say somebody doesn't call me. I really want to say, why didn't you call? And I know everyone gets defensive when you say, why didn't you call? But really, again, it's just data. I didn't call because I was busy. I didn't call because this and that. I didn't call because I didn't feel like it. Give me an answer. But I've learned that you're really not supposed to say, why didn't you call? But that just seems silly. I'm working on my relationships, and I really just want to be able to say to somebody, are we friends or not? Are we friends or not? Yes or no? You laugh, but really, it's just a very simple request. Why can't we all just do that? But no, she said, if you're in kindergarten, you can do that, but when you're 30-something, you can't. So, unless you had a couple drinks, and then it's okay. It's true. It's true. But I don't want to have a couple drinks. I just want to say it. So, anyway, these are things that I'm still really working on in therapy. Which brings me to definitions of success. And I've been to a few autism conferences, and I know that there are autistic people that can't get a job, have problems in school, and their parents and their teachers are concerned about them. And I am sensitive to that. Fortunately, I was really good at school. I'm getting my 4th degree. But that doesn't mean success to me. Success really is, for me, happiness. And I'm not there yet because my personal relationships are, they're about a C+. And I'm not going to be happy until I'm like at least a B. So, I just want everyone to consider the idea of success and helping people on the spectrum to, yes, focus on, career and, success in life and getting a job, and those are important things. But you can have a good job, you can have a great job, you can be successful, you can have a lot of money, and look fine on the outside, but you can be really hurting on the inside because your personal relationships are in bad shape. So I want us to, I know a lot of people are also working with autistic people and helping them with social skills. And I'm still working on that. Luckily, I've learned a lot on my own, but also I've struggled a lot on my own. So now I'm kind of catching up. Advantages to being autistic. I mean, I really think there's a lot of autistic people are amazing musicians because we process sounds differently. I mean, I can hear like a cricket over there and say, oh, you know, there's a cricket over there. And like, how did you know? You know, and I can hear music differently, I can play it differently, and people say, oh, how did you hear it that way? I think that's an advantage. You know, there are autistic people that have other savant qualities. The sensitivity thing, I think once you can reach an autistic person and that person is expressing their sensitivity, it's just amazing how sensitive we can be. I think this is an autistic trait. I'm very stubborn and I don't give up. So I've gotten through a lot of things in my life by just being stubborn and working really hard and really focusing. And I think that's a great quality in a lot of things. I think autistic people are very good at analyzing situations and having a humanistic view. Like, for example, you know, there's a societal rule that, you know, when women get married, they change their last name because the man is in charge or whatever. Which, I mean, it just seems like, why should we accept that just because it's always been that way? You know, and so I think autistic people have the ability to look at a situation and analyze it from just an analytical view and say, well, is this fair, or, you know, why? Just why? If you can't give me an answer, then why do we continue to do it? For example, that's just an example. That's a great question. The way I became diagnosed was a friend of mine, her girlfriend had Asperger's, and you know, she was giving me all the information, and I said, oh, it's my dad. And I started reading, and I said, oh, it's me too. So then I got diagnosed. But I knew before that. I mean, I guess once I was diagnosed, I said, oh, thank God, there's an explanation. The other thing is, I don't know, where is that slide? Oh, yes. You know, I don't like the term that there's something wrong with the autistic brain. I've been to autism conferences, and people say, you know, what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong? It's not wrong, it's different.
Amen.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's just different. Just like, for example, I know homosexuality used to be called a mental illness. It was in the DSM as a mental illness. And now it's not. So, you know, there's neurodiversity. So to answer your question, I don't know. I mean, does this person acknowledge that they have Asperger's, or?
Yeah, no, he just doesn't understand that, he needs to interact with people more appropriately and not yell at them because it's like something that they're doing. And
okay. I think you got to be tough. Because I really need somebody, I needed somebody, and even now I think, need somebody to be very specific, and that's the wrong way to do it. Just say that. I mean, give it a try. Okay? I mean, like I was saying before, I know some MT people are like, well, I don't want to offend them. And like I said, a lot of times you're not going to offend that person. I mean, yeah, if they end up crying, then you know you offended them. But I really think err on the side of August. I mean, I was a competitive swimmer all my life. And that's another thing that is great because you're like, do it on this time. No, it's not fast enough. Go faster. Kick harder. No, you did that wrong. Do it this way. And I mean, I thrive in that environment. So I think you personally maybe should be a little tougher and more direct. Like, this was wrong and this was right. Let's do it again. No, that was wrong. Let's do it again. Oh, that was right. Or this part was wrong and that was right. Just be binary. This is my advice. Okay, and yeah, autistic people do need encouragement and are sensitive, but I think the way that you talk to them is important, and if you just break it down, this was wrong, this was right. As a child, like, I was talking enough, and the thing that fooled everyone was because I was doing so well in school and doing really well in swimming, you know, but I was really hurting inside. I mean, I became like self-destructive as a teenager, and, you know, my parents were just like, oh, everything's fine because she's doing well in school, you know. So that's, you know, unfortunately that kind of covered it up.
Hi, I have a student that he can remember words to songs and he will sing to people, but if you have to talk to him, you are lucky. I mean, the speech therapist would be so happy if he could just say 4 words in a row just to communicate his needs and everything.
How old is he?
He is probably 12.
Okay, he doesn't talk to his parents?
His mother, no. I just got him.
What if you just stand to the side to him? You know, like, don't talk to him in this way. What if you stand to the side and talk to him like this?
Never thought of that.
Yeah, try that. I mean, when I get nervous, I get like that. I just like talk to some, you know, I'll be talking over here and they're over here, but I do that. So try to stand next to them and talk to them from the side. But it sounds like it's hurting him. I mean, it kind of physically hurts me sometimes when I have lights and noises. It physically hurts me. So that's probably what's happening. And I wouldn't worry about, you know, he might not love music, and I think that has to be okay. Thank you.